Hello, my name is Mark Fortin,
And I'm Lisa Minkwitz.
and we're from Michigan Matters. We also have a very special show here today, a very special guest, and Lisa's going to take it over from here.
We have an American patriot, somebody who's very tough, very smart, never gives up. It's my pleasure to introduce the Donna Brandenburg. Hi,
Hi guys.
Donna.
Hi,
Thanks
how
for
you
being
guys doing?
here. Good, good.
Good.
Thank you for being here. Tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods.
Well, thank you for having me here. And this is such an interesting time to be alive. That it's kind of how do I say this? It's critical right now that we know and understand exactly what's going on in the state. And something that I uncovered was a sewer project in this area, but what's really behind it is the unlawful behavior of the township, the people from the township, their contractors, the different boards, the oversight agencies, and such. And what they ended up doing is they've literally stolen our private property. And that means that they have stolen hundreds and hundreds of millions of gallons of water out of the groundwater, and they dropped the water table. They ruined my well, and we didn't have water to the house, which is kind of like a crimes against humanity situation, honestly. So we the connectivity to everything that's involved in this is just kind of shocking. But it's definitely involves the Drain Commission, the Road Commission, Eagle, and all the oversight organizations. It's rolled into the township in ways you just couldn't even make this stuff up. We now have 3 ponds that are completely bone dry after all of their draining of these wetlands, and a couple of other wells that have gone dry. I was talking to them. I've been out there documenting this on almost a daily basis. I've been threatened by the contractor. He went past one day when I was standing with a friend and started the sweep up and threw the power sweep and threw a cloud of debris over the top of us to try to scare us off.
Yes,
But
Michelle.
it's just unbelievable. I mean, it probably could qualify as assault, actually. So I went to the township board on the 28th of July, and I wrote this report, and I laid out all the violations that they have, including the fact that they've got Fifth Amendment violations, 14th Amendment violations, Michigan law. Laid out the fact that they were there to serve the citizenry rather than the contractors. And what these guys are all about, it's conflict of interest. They're either builders, developers, assessors. They've got a reason to do this development, do it the way that they've done it. They're getting some of the people are getting paid for easements through their properties so that they can in turn go ahead and develop. And also what they've done is they've dropped the water table, filled in the areas that were wetlands, put sewers in the place so that the water that's been here for who knows how long, and then giving them trunk lines to be able to develop on top of it. Now, where the real problem comes in, and we're seeing it across the state, I'm getting calls from everybody, and I'm a pro se litigant. Right now, I have a case out there for Jocelyn Benson and also a case against Jonathan Brader. I have a couple other cases out there. And Friday, I filed an emergency injunction. We also filed an ex parte, and then gave them a temporary restraining order, which right now the judge is appearing to be slow walking it. And I'm not going to say that the judge is or isn't involved, but it's kind of suspicious that you can go for a temporary restraining order and have absolutely no response on this in an emergency situation. No response. We called Eagle, we called the Drain Commission, we've called everybody, and the response is just pathetic at worst. When my well went dry, the engineering company came over, and I'm like, you guys just dropped my water table. It's been confirmed by a report from a well drilling company that it was because you dropped the water table in the area. They said, go to your neighbor and hook up with a hose. And I had to stop, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Our well is dry, and now you're asking me to go to my neighbor's well and take their water, which they're going to need. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I have too much integrity to do that. I'm not going to let you make your problem into mine and my neighbor's problem. And I just told him, I said, I'll be doing this myself because you're completely incompetent and negligent. And so I contracted another well, drilled the well, and they're going to get the bill on that. I did walk the right of way with the township, one of the township trustees. And because I own a construction company, I could point out all of the violations. They literally were stabbing casements 40 feet in the ground underneath the creek bed and dumping it down the night drain, which is a creek, out of the area. And just, we calculated that it was at least 1 million gallons a minute that they've been pumping out of here. It's well over 300 million gallons. And that's just in phase 2. And in phase 1, they were doing it in phase 1 too. And I've been collecting evidence on this. They put the pipe in the ground. There was so much water in the ground that the pipe floated to the top. They had to dig it up, de-water this, which they have no permits to do, and then relay the pipe. And so when I really started getting into this and seeing this, what you can see clearly across the state, that this is all about water wars. So I call it Water Wars, the crime scene, every time I go out there.
Well,
They're all involved in this.
Donna, isn't it true the contractor was a no bid contract?
It was a no bid contract. So there's so many different little offshoots of this that it would take me a while to really organize it. I've got some reports made so that people can see exactly what they're doing, because they're doing it across the state. They had one contract that was submitted because the contractor from phase 1 said, there's so much water here, I'm not going to touch this. Well, guess what? Contractor in phase 2, they jumped at it, and it was only one bid. They got the contract. And when you look at the way the engineering laid this thing out, it's literally to go through different people's property who look like they have the intention of developing. And
so, Donna, do you consider Byron Township as the canary in the
Coal mine.
In the coal mine? I mean, they get away with it here. They're just going to keep doing it everywhere as well.
Well, they are already doing it everywhere. And what's kind of interesting is how the township is literally the foot soldiers for say, like the UN type organization. Because what is really happening is that we already have 15-minute cities. They say that they're going to build 15-minute cities. They've already built them, and they're building the infrastructure out more and more every day. And what they're doing is making them dependent on their water system. So they take our water, which is our private property. It's our mineral rights on our property. They entered into contract on our properties without our consent. They never gave us notice. They never asked us if we wanted this done. They just did it and then told us we're doing this. The township supervisor, Don Tilma, literally stood up in a meeting and looked at us and said this to the citizenry. And I've been kind of gathering the people in the area up. And because I am a pro se litigant, it helps me to go after these people and kind of like help people to understand their standing and also what they can do about it. But the township supervisor looked at us and said, they have total contempt for us. The entirety of the political world and the oversight agencies are foot soldiers of something very, very much larger. He looked at us and said, this project's going through and you people can't stop it.
And out of those people, none of them are probably missing their water, right?
Well, no, because they're all getting favors from the things that they vote in, because
right.
They're either developers. So like Don Tilma appointed a board that was supposed to be an oversight board of some sort. And on that is Steve Kilgore. Well, he just got paid for an assessment going through his property, which, he's a developer. You've got Mark D. Hollander, who is also a builder, but he's also an assessor. So you can see what's happening here. They go in and they're rigging the pricing of the area. So the builders will say, well, I'm selling my houses for $850,000, which is affecting the entire area. They're literally setting the assessments to the areas to increase the property values. And then the third one on that board is Joe Pitch, and he's part of the Pitch family of companies, and they have a demolition and wrecking. But almost everyone involved in this, there's only 2 of them that don't have something to do with construction and building this out. So we have a 34% increase in the population and building, because these people are just literally destroying the wetlands and then building on top of them. So, and getting rid of the water so that all of our farms, and, I have a farm, all of us have no water and will have to hook up to their municipal water. But what they did is they literally stole and they dewatered the water and flushed it downstream, backfilled everything that was wetlands.
And isn't that illegal?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's looking like a RICO case because they're all kind of involved in it. So on the 28th, I came in there and I had a report, and I said, I am going to read this, including the fact that they're guilty. And also, they never gave us notice. They keep moving the meetings around to confuse the public on when they're doing their meetings. I wouldn't sit down, so they called the sheriff on me, and they were trying to either detain or arrest me. And I said, I will not sit down. I am going to sit here until we're heard, because you are damaging our private property, and you entered into contract without our permission, and you had no permission. We've never signed a contract, so therefore it has no force of law. Well, the sheriff came over and tried to get me to sit down, and I said, I will not sit down. I said, we have to be heard. These people are stealing our property right now as we speak. And I said, you need to choose who you serve right now, because your decisions you make are going to determine your future, because I know your office better than you do, because you clearly don't know the Constitution. So she called 2 backup officers, and when they heard me talking, they basically stood down, and I decided that was a bad idea. Well, this past Monday, what happened is they decided to schedule a special meeting just for those affected, which was, they said, 20 people. It affects the entire area. I'm 2 miles, I'm a half a mile away from where they've got all these stab wells in the ground, where they were pumping 1 million gallons a minute out of this area. And so no, this really affects the entire water table of the entire area. You've stolen our property. We have no voice. You have complete contempt for us. A gal got up and talked about their Open Meeting Act violation and their constitutional obligation for us to instruct them and such. They got so mad. Don Tillema, he's a little bit unhinged. He literally, in the middle of the meeting, said, we're not going to talk about it, gavelled the meeting out and walked off. It was an illegal adjournment of the meeting.
Oh, an elected official having a tantrum, huh?
It was a temper tantrum, and he literally walked out. But, and I had them served with the emergency injunction at 4:00. The meeting was supposed to start at 5:30. So they were a little bit on edge from receiving their their emergency injunction. Truly, and so they didn't really know how to deal with it, but that doesn't give them an excuse. They're scared, because they know that I'm going to bite on. And the contractor the other day, after the injunction was filed, walked past all of my private property and no trespassing signs, walked right onto the property, because these people have contempt for all of us, and took pictures of my billboard that I created to let the community know what's going on, because fake news will not talk about this. They're part of it, and they're stealing our state one area at a time. They're doing it. The water wars is they're trying to destroy all the dams. We've got about 2,600 dams in the state of Michigan that were created to regulate and make sure that we did have water during droughts and such. They're pulling those dams, which is going to destroy campgrounds, commerce in different areas. They're trying to keep us off the land. And it goes much deeper than this. I've tracked it down to the fact that they're clear cutting areas that are ours and state land. It has to do with the DNR too. They're sending it to bioenergy generators. One of them is owned by a company registered in New York City. Some other connections go to Consumers Power, and that also leads us to an island that they've purchased off of Venezuela. And you can connect the dots there to what's happened with rigging the election, the stolen elections and the fact that it happened exactly in Venezuela and then went to the Philippines like it's happened here. It's a coup. We're in a war. This is irregular warfare. And right now, the biggest threat that we have in the state of Michigan is going to be the water wars, where they're going to try to choke us out and only give water to their good little communist buddies who are behaving. And the other thing is that NGOs are involved in this too. So they're putting in housing and they're giving zero down loans. So the mortgage companies are involved in it. Zero down loans at 1% interest. And some of the qualifications for some of this is that they have to put time in to their little chaos agents and the NGOs to be socially disruptive. And that goes back to rigging how the districts are with bringing in their communist buddies and rigging the elections through restructuring of the people that have been in that area.
Wow.
That's what we're suffering in this state. Is we are facing a communist takeover of the state of Michigan, at least, if not America itself. I mean, you look at everything from the CCP battery plant thing, every aspect of it. So what they've done, see if I'm saying this accurately, they've taken an existing system. That system is ordinances, laws, community this, community that. They're taking this entire system and they're weaponizing it against the people to help create this 15-minute city garbage, get us off the land into the cities where they have total control of us.
Well, and they're targeting right now rural areas that typically are conservative, and they're draining the water so that they can build their infrastructure, which a lot of the debt on this is owned by, and I'm going to poke the bear. This is why I got kicked off of Facebook and YouTube in the last 2 days, because it leads right back to BlackRock and some of the other BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Arabella, and who own each other. It's kind of like a circular monopoly that owns all of the rest of it, so that they can own that, try to force us to be on their water lines because they've stolen all of our natural water, and we own everything. Maxims of law means that says that we own what's above and below the property that we own. And so they're stealing our minerals. And the DNR right now has claimed ownership of 4.6 million acres in the state of Michigan. And they're using it to do the public-private partnership, which is exactly what China's done, because they are basically taking over all of our businesses and industries too. So this is kind of, they must be getting a little nervous because they seem to be putting the pedal to the metal a little bit faster every day in this takeover. If you're in an area across Michigan, look how they're draining your lakes and the water table. That's the key, because if they drain the water table, you'll start seeing the wells failing. And that means that the farms will fail. This is happening all over the place. The farms have no water. They can't water their animals. They can't water their crops. And it goes to what's happening in the farmland. I was driving to an organization where I was a keynote speaker last week. And as I was driving through Michigan, and I was east of Charlotte, you can see that all the 200-acre farms are gone. And all we are pretty much left with anymore are the big corporate farms. This goes back to Bill Gates. He's buying farmlands, which are over the aquifers. So they have all kinds of natural water there as they drain our water, force us to get on their systems, take our water and force us to pay them for it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like Gavin Newsom in California literally took the water away from the people. There was no reason for it, but he wanted to drown them out.
Exactly. And then watch the fires that are going to start from the trees that will start dying for the lack of water. Because I'm telling you, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of gallons just out of this one small area in Byron Township. It's not the whole township. It's
Well, and
one
Donna,
small
do you
area.
know, where does Nestle, I know they take our water too. Where are you in proximity to them? Is it very close to you guys? Are they in the middle of the state?
They're an hour and maybe a half away from here, but they're doing this all over the place. They're
Right.
literally tapping it out. So Nestle bought a $250 permit from the state. They just had it re-up for $400 or $400 for the second permit to redo it. And they're taking billions of gallons of water out of this state, selling it back to us and to China. That water is our water. They have literally pilfered our land. And the people that are sitting in the seats as politicians are absolutely worthless. All of them. Any of them could have done something. None of them are doing anything. So I guess it's going to be me out here suing all of them. And they take our stuff. There's consequences to that. And that's going to be a legal come to Jesus moment when they realize that they have, in fact, done irreparable damage to the people, not only this area, but across the state.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, you put a temporary restraining order you filed for, right?
Yeah, an emergency. I did an emergency injunction against Byron Township and all of their contractors, anybody that's associated with it. And I told them they were not supposed to step 1 foot on my land because I was asserting my private property rights, and they'd already overwhelmed us with their negligence and incompetence. I'm like, you are not to walk 1 foot on my land. Well, the contractor that's out there working on it, Montgomery Excavating, just pulled into the driveway of our neighbor, got out, parked in front of our house. We've got all kinds of footage on it, sent somebody in to walk past the signs and take videos and pictures and such. I've got some epic pictures of that. So now they get sued, all of them, because they were involved in this too. The township board, everyone that's involved in this is going to have a little heartburn when we're done with this, not only for their actions on the stand up there and the total contempt for the people. What was really amazing is when they tried to take me out of that meeting, the sheriffs, everybody in that room got up and came all the way around me and said, "You're not taking her. And if you take her, you're taking all of us." We all stood together. And there's a lot of us here who are standing together against this, and a lot of people who are going to be in a situation of irreparable harm. We need some help. We need people to act. Eagle was I tried getting hold of Eagle, and the gal at Eagle, I was out, finally got a hold of her. She said, "Well, I was out of the office for a week." Well, how do you file an emergency injunction when somebody is pilfering things if there's no contact? And she's like, "Well, I've got a lot of emails, and I haven't gotten back to them all." I said, "Do you realize what you've done by not dealing with this situation?"
Right.
It's because of your lack of having any action on this also, and no oversight. None of these people will come out on the job site. The gal from Eagle says to me, she's like, "Well, I need more information to investigate this." I'm sitting there going, "This is your job." And so she wanted me to track it all down. Angie Vanderplug from the the township of Byron Township, people were calling when they started seeing my videos and what was going on, asking them questions about what was going on. She's like, "No, there's no problem with the water here." I'm like, "Really? Go ahead, keep lying to people. There's
Until
a big
hers runs
problem."
dry, then there'll be a problem.
They're all those typical politicians. Their mouths move and they lie.
So I'm no attorney, but it seems to me every time I've heard of emergency restraining orders, they're dealt with immediately one way or another.
Yeah, this attorney
This one they're dragging their feet on while
the
your
attorney's
wells go dry
name
and water's being pumped.
Well, she was on vacation.
No, that was Eagle. But then the attorney that we have right here, her name is, I think, Christina Mims from, let me see, Circuit Court Judge Christina Mims. And she is dragging her feet on this. I filed the emergency injunction on Friday. We got a notification yesterday, the day before yesterday, that we had to turn in a temporary restraining order on it. And it's still there. I've had no response on this.
So tomorrow is a week. And how much water's been pumped in this week?
Yeah, they were still pumping last night. I take videos. I go out there, and the contractor's hysterical. Every time I'm out there, he's like, "You need a safety vest and a helmet." And I'm like, "I own a construction company, dude. I know the rules." I'm like, "You can't. I don't work for you. You got nothing to say to me."
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well,
But
Donna, we may not be in Byron Township, but here in Macomb County, we care about you guys and everything you're going through. And it's good to get this all around the state because, like you said, they're coming for everybody.
They are. That's why we have to um, get out of our heads. Those of us that may have that in our heads. Well, it's not me. It's over there. No, Michigan is all of us, and when we have to start thinking about each other in these areas that we're having these issues, and we have to start standing up to this legislature in Lansing and really start pushing these people to do the right thing. And we have to think about each other. What's going on in Michigan here? And
yeah, it's
something
really
must be
brought the
done about it.
neighbors together in this area, just so you know. But I can guarantee you, everybody's been saying this, that the trees are going to start dying because they've lowered the water table so low. So they're going to get another notice from,
By design.
yeah, they're getting another notice from me. Every tree that dies from here on out is going to be a $10,000 fine for them. And this is going to end up going to a whole lot of pain for them. And they can either pay the bill for draining the area and taking the property and ruining not just my property, all the wetlands. And I'm an uplands wetland conservator because it goes through my property. And so now you've got a real problem. All of the creeks, they're all going dry because they've dropped the water table so much during a drought, and they never had a permit to de-water. One of the guys, like I said, he's got 7. He cooperated with us because he's getting on the pay. They de-watered that area, and the wonderful people who are engineering this put, I think, 7 trunk lines, including city other like a sanitary sewer, to make sure that the water table stays low. One of my next steps is we're going to go to the Army Corps of Engineers, and this whole thing has got to be ripped out, and everybody pray for rain, or we're going to have a federal, it's going to be a disaster area, like a federal disaster area, with all of these homes having their wells are going to fail. Like I said, we have 3 ponds that are completely empty, and people that have lived here, that have gotten the properties from their parents, that have, animals and such. And it's if this keeps up and we have no response from people, it's going to be a disaster area that is going to literally wipe out houses and people being able to live here, because they will not be able to get the water in any way, shape, or form quick enough to service the houses that they're damaging.
Donna, do you think your group would qualify as a class action lawsuit?
Well, you kind of could, but because I'm a pro se litigant, because the class action lawsuits play into the Michigan bar, which, just so everybody knows, there's no such thing as a licensed attorney anywhere in the United States. There's no such thing as a license to practice law. It's a private membership association. It's their little country club card, and they work for the judges and the court system. The court system is a bank. That's all it is. That's why we're getting no justice here. And so if you get into a class action lawsuit, all they're going to do is the attorneys and the judges are going to take all the money, and there will be no relief for anyone. They just use that as a further way to enrich themselves. So as a pro se litigant, I have most of the people that I know that file pro se are winning, and winning bigly. And the other thing is that going through this, I, as a singular person who writes the cases, submits the cases, argues the cases and such, for me to be able to set precedent, and because I can argue and talk, and I do know the law pretty well, that having that knowledge of it is power. And so I can go in, like I did at the township hall, and absolutely tell them exactly what's going on there. And they violate that. See, they work for us. They can't sit there and treat us like little dictators. And so
Or
we
peasants.
have the rights. What's that?
I said they treat us like peasants.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we were talking about doing this video earlier today, Lisa told me something like they kicked the wrong cage, or they have no idea.
I said they have no idea who they're messing with. Talking about you, Donna.
Yep.
I tell you what happened. It was like I was already on this thing before and fighting it and documenting it and such. When my well went dry, and I mean, the house was without water for a week. Okay, totally. And so we had to they were like, well, go get a hose and hook up to your neighbor. I'm like, what kind of a moron, unprofessional moron would say something like that? And so we ended up getting an IBC container and filling it, putting it. We just had to fill it up every day and a half or so until we got the well in. I said, you people aren't touching my land because you have just spectacularly failed. It's malfeasance. It's maladministration. They have followed no laws. They've literally stepped in here. None of the oversight organizations will show up on the scene. I did demand that one of our trustees walked it. We walked the entire right of way, and I showed them how they were mixing materials in a federally protected wetland,
Right.
and exactly what they were doing. So there's no excuse.
So Donna, are you willing to come on maybe next week and give us an update?
Oh, absolutely. And we'll see how this goes. We're going to see if this goes into, I've got some contacts within appointees of the Trump administration that we're going to go to. This may go to a federal lawsuit. If she doesn't get off her rear end and sign this emergency injunction, what I think she's doing is they're all in bed together. I think she's slow walking it so that they can get it all in the ground and then get out of there before she said, well, there's no need for an injunction. They're not there anymore. Well, guess
This has got to be orchestrated. It's got to be orchestrated.
It is.
It's not just 2 or 3 people.
It is. And so if she does that, that doesn't get them off the hook for the damage. And she just adds herself into the lawsuit for inaction and not protect. You know, when anybody in our government takes an oath or takes a payment, they don't even have to say an oath. They should, but a lot of them get out of it by not having their proper oaths filed. There's 3 oaths that they're supposed to have filed, and none of them are doing it properly.
Oh, of course not. We keep finding that left and right for the last 5 years?
Yeah. So they're on the hook for this. And that means there's already precedent. There was an area up by Flint. They had the same thing. They drained the wetlands, and our state gave $250 million to an organization to build on that land. That's what they're doing. They're going through NGOs and public-private partnerships and such. They gave them $250 million. Somebody finally blew the whistle on them, which is what had to happen, like what's happening here. They took the money and fled the state and left the area. So now they've absconded with public funds again, which they should have never had because it was for private entity. It wasn't for benefiting the public. All of this is to profit off of. There's crimes of patronage involved in this. It's RICO. The amount of criminality here and violations of the actual law where they're all turning their heads, and all of these sham regulatory agencies, they're all in on it.
I wonder if they're laundering money through this project.
There's no question that's what they're doing. We just have to look at the receipts, and I'm pretty extra sure that investigation is going to be crawling up their nose and finding out. I've got a couple other friends that how should we say, our naval intelligence, that are crawling up their nose and telling them exactly what's going to happen. I mean, they literally kicked the wrong person. Everybody across the state was like, man, we're so sorry this is happening to you, Don. And I'm like, trust me, we can MacGyver our way through anything, okay? But what they did was probably the worst thing that could have happened. They killed my well. They ruined my well. Of all the wells in the area, my well was ruined first. So that activated a pretty much a boss level accountability and situation that they're not getting away from.
Fantastic, Donna. Thank you so much.
Yes,
and we're going to do this again soon and keep track of this.
I'd like to tell everybody out there that I've got what I'm doing is I'm trying to develop a system that I can help people across the state with how to go through this, because it is intimidating for people to get up and talk at meetings. I have an easy time with it, but when they started threatening people in these meetings, most of the people sat down because they were afraid. Most of the people are afraid to speak up because they're afraid of retribution. And furthermore, when we get all of the legal or the lawful paperwork figured out, other people are going to be able to follow suit. I'm just going to kick the door in.
Perfect.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And I'm sure everyone that's going through this is got to be thrilled that you're in this fight. And you'll win it because that's who you are.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't back down. I don't have a reverse gear on anything. So
It's so great to
Well,
see you again.
awesome to see you. Thank you, Donna. Talk to you next week.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you guys too. And thank you for everything you guys are doing. I love you both.
We love you
Thank
too.
you.
God bless.
Bye
Thank you.
now.
God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to our website, michiganmatters.org. We have some events on there and that type of thing. There's a calendar and so on and so forth. You find out what's going on. We're going to stay on top of this story, and there's some other stories that we're going to talk about soon also that are going on in the upper. But Donna's a real warrior, and we're going to stay in touch with her and keep abreast of what's going on because water affects all of us. Here we are in the heart of the Great Lakes. If Michigan was not here, there'd be 3 Great Lakes, right? One great big huge thing from one side of Lake Michigan to the other side of Lake Huron. If Michigan wasn't here, we're right in the heart of the whole thing. Water should be the last of our problems.
Right.
But the globalists and the socialists in Michigan are doing all they can to destroy our farms, our families, and everything. But anyway, we thank you for being with us, and we will be doing this again next week. And,
Please share this.
mhm.
So we want to help get it around the entire state because we have no idea how many people are suffering the same baloney that Donna Brandenburg is in Byron Township. So please spread this. Send it to your aunt that lives up north. Send it to everybody if you don't mind.
It's true. Where Michigan matters, and Michigan does matter. Every bit of Michigan matters. It doesn't matter if they're way up in the upper or way down by Chicago or what. I mean, we have to start getting together and caring about each other's issues.
Amen.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.